Hey folks, Quillian here, and welcome to another episode of Let's Play Kerbal Space Program, the experimental version of patch 1.1. Last time, we got all our signs from space, but we actually failed to achieve orbit, and we're going to correct that this time. And that's quite simple. We are simply going to remove the science bay, because we've got all that science. We don't need it. We're going to remove the goo canister, because we don't need that either. And keep the 3 thermometers on there, because one, they're relatively lightweight and don't really cause much in the way of problems. And we still need to get the low atmosphere temperature, and I actually forgot to grab the temperature from the ocean landing, unfortunately, so maybe we'll get that this time. So we've got a little bit more science to achieve there, but mostly we're trying to complete our contract of achieving orbit, which should be a lot simpler if our ship is lighter. We have shed, only 2.2 tons? I didn't realize the science bay was that light. Seriously? I thought that was really heavy. Oh, it is too. Damn. That is not the change that I was expecting. Well, on the bright side, by dropping some of that weight, we do get a little bit of extra thrust weight, but I think what we're going to do is we might just go and supply a little bit of extra oomph over here simply through the use of SRBs. Not an extra stage. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab our radial decouplers over here, and I'm going to actually use a foursome of them. We're going to get a hell of a lot of kick from this, but that's all right. And we're going to use these hammers over here. And our first, oops, that is not quite centered. Actually, let me go and drop this down a little bit lower. Our first stage is actually going to be these 4 SRBs, which is going to get us off the ground first. They're going to go, and then the second stage is going to involve separating off the SRBs and lighting our central fuel over here. Ooh, we are overweighted for our launch pad, but we've got the cash to go and upgrade that. I'm going to save this new version of the Theodorpson class. Upgrading the launch pad is only 75,000, so we're going to go ahead and do that. So the idea here is that we'll get our first kick off the launch pad with these 4 SRBs and then start the rest of it, and that combined with the less weight should, again, without any real delta V calculations, should be enough to get us into space, assuming I haven't completely goofed it all up. So we're going to go and we're going to change our pilot as well. We're going to give Valentina the experience to go in. We're going to try to alternate pilots between each and every mission, which is very common to have it sort of a cycle that way. So maybe Valentina will be our first Kerbal to orbit. Jebadiah was certainly the first Kerbal in space, but Valentina might be the first one to orbit. So I think that's good. I think I'm pretty keen on that, so we're going to go ahead and launch this. I guess we still have the antenna. We don't really need it. Oh, no, oh, my Lord. That is unpleasant. Hang on. We're going to make a slight adjustment over there and actually use the... Oh, right, we don't have the launch clamps. Damn. Okay, here's what we can do. I can drop this even lower, the 4-way symmetry, so that the ship actually rests on these 4 engines instead. Now, we don't have struts, but I think it'll be stable enough. How does that do for us? Alright, a little bit better, and we'll turn on the SAS now. So 4 engines, oh, and then the staging got broke, because I moved things, of course. 4 engines, then the central engine does that, and then we stage that part, and then we stage that, and we have the parachute. Okay. Full throttle, although it's not needed for the SRBs. And let's go. That is a hell of a kick to get started. In fact, quite a bit more than we would like. And I have no real ability to steer at this point. So we are going to go way, way, way too vertical. Way, 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 way too fast. Oh, Lord. That is really double plus on good. Not at all what you're trying to accomplish most of the time. Oof. Okay. Let's stage and do that. And we're going to cut back on our throttle. We want the engine to be on, certainly, because, I mean, we still want to go up, and we need the engine's gimbling to give us a little bit of control, but we're going to try to shove this thing over. This is going to be quite difficult. We are almost going directly straight up, which is not the most optimal way to get into orbit, but, like, at all. But we do have a lot more thrust. I'm still going to try not to go outside of this circle too much, because if we do that, we can get the atmospheric drag to get us to start flipping. But we are going to try to slowly... Oh, and I'm losing speed, actually, so I think full throttle now would be fine. And I'm just trying to shove over here. As the atmosphere gets thinner and thinner, there starts to be less and less risk of you actually going into that spinning around mode. So So I'm really trying to shove over, and this is not optimal because there's a lot of reasons we're losing delta V at this point. Not the least of which is the fact that the air resistance hitting us from the side is going to slow us down, partially bleed off some of our vertical speed. We don't want to lose our vertical speed. We just need to make sure we have a lot of sideways speed, because that is how we get to space. And again, I didn't get my low atmospheric temperature reading. So this is what happens when you don't have Science Alert running. Okay, it looks like we're getting much more on course. We just switched to orbital mode as opposed to surface mode, which I'm okay with. And at 40K, the atmosphere's still thin. I'm actually going to feel very comfortable about going completely sideways now. There we go. There's still a little bit of drag trying to push us towards prograde from our fins, but almost none. So the SAS mode from the reaction wheels over here and a little bit of gimbling can handle it. And our apoapsis is climbing. And we are getting a nice flat route over here. And we're thin enough that the fact that we're still in the atmosphere isn't that bothersome. Like the next stage, which has huge kick. And we're just going to keep burning sideways here until our apoapsis again goes above 70. Oh yeah, we're going to end up with very nice stuff going on here. We do have to make sure we don't run out of gas and can't come back. And I'm going to call that pretty good. Still technically in the atmosphere a little bit, so it'll bleed off a tiny bit of height, but barely any. And we have half a fuel, well, I was going to say half a fuel tank, if you combine these two as one fuel tank, left, and that we can use to circularize. We'll need very little delta V to circularize and enter orbit, and we'll still have enough fuel to be able to do a retro burn and come back. So there we go. So yeah, there's no temperature to be logged here. That is really sucky, but we can log it on the way back down, actually. I forgot about that. So let me go ahead and keep that there, maybe as a reminder. Here, I'll keep it right here as a reminder that, hey, on your way back down, you know, when you deploy the parachutes, why don't you go out and grab the temperature then? It's exactly the same. Okay, I'm going to go and do a little physics warp until we hit space. And there we go. And then I will go ahead and time warp. Have to be careful not to overshoot too much. Okay, kill the time warp and make sure we're facing properly prograde. It's not going to need much burn, so I'm actually going to be able to be pretty near the apoapsis when we start our burn. Okay, I'm going to call that good enough. I'm going to start it, and at some point, the orbit will pop out the other side, and then they'll start to want to flip, and that is a good sign of a circular orbit. 83 kilometers here, 72 there. So not quite circular, but it is above 70,000 on both sides. We are officially in orbit. Valentina is the first Kerbal in orbit. Because I'm not running any mods that add to the ambient lighting, on a video, I have no doubt that this is probably quite dark here. It looks, you know, like anything. If you play Kerbal, it looks fine in person, but videos tend to make dark things darker, and since it's so dark on the dark side of Kerbin right now, you might have a hard time seeing things, and I apologize for that. When we unlock the ability to add lights to our ships, I'm going to add lots of shiny blinking lights. Let's check our mission status. So we have a world milestone first. Get 24,000 bucks and 2 science, simply for entering orbit. Then for completing that contract, we get almost 50,000 Kerbal bucks and 10 more science for free. Beautiful. So no reason to stick around here. We don't even have to complete a full orbit. What I will do is I'll just time warp until we're on the sunny side again, and then come down over there. So we can see what we're doing a little bit more, and it'll look pretty. We can watch another sunrise. Hello, there's the sun. Bam. Beautiful. Okay. We could try to land on some territory we haven't been yet to get some new stuff. But I think I'm going to be happy with just playing it safe. I'm going to turn fully retrograde, which is what we've got going on here. I'm going to apply just enough burn to drop our orbit. And that we will re-enter at some point. Well, parry's actually not quite as low as I thought. But I'm going to do something like that. That should be a gentle enough arc that will have a lot of time going sideways in the atmosphere to bleed off speed. And that's fine. I suppose I could bleed off more just by literally just burning my engine longer. We're still not going to come in too steep. So there we go. That'll bleed off a little bit more speed. But without proper maneuver nodes and conics and things like that, I'm not going to feel comfortable doing anything more sophisticated. So I'm just going to go ahead and detach. And that's that. I'll go and time warp until we enter the atmosphere, same as before. Excellent, and we're going to make sure we're in surface mode. So we're getting our retrograde relative to the atmosphere. I'll just physics warp. Whoa. at this point. Yeah, even with caps lock, it's crazy. Physics warp until we start to see a little bit of atmospheric effects. Yeah, and every time you go to the map, it does close your little pop-up windows. That's a little bit inconvenient. It'd be nice if they stayed open. I wonder if that's something that we can do. So yeah, we do have the high atmosphere, the upper atmosphere, so that's not going to help there. So I'm going to try to remember, and I think it's around 15K that it switches from high to low. We'll try to get a thermometer reading then, and then when I land in the ocean, I'll try to get another one at that point. And I'll just try to keep my butt properly facing into the wind. If it goes too far, and if I'm not aerodynamically stable, although something as short and stubby as this is very aerodynamically stable, I may not have to do the SAS stuff, but I'm just playing it safe here. You can actually see, like, the SAS that's using no power. It's not having to work, just barely, one little tick there, to try to keep us facing the way that I've got. And part of it may be just literally because of drift from the retrograde, which is going to happen as you bleed off horizontal speed. It might just be that here it's using none, and then as it drifts from the center, then it has to use a little bit more to counter the atmospheric. But no, now that we're getting to thicker air, it does have to work a little bit more, but not much. Oh, there we go. Apparently, this is low atmosphere. Can we get a crew report? Excellent. From flying over water. Oh, right, and you get different Oh, yeah, so we are going to need to do thermometer ratings on the way up, because I forgot that you have, you can do thermometer readings from different biomes. At least in the lower atmosphere. I don't think the upper atmosphere. I might be wrong. Maybe you can do that including space. Maybe I could have gotten a lot of thermometer readings. I was forgetting about some of these things being biome sensitive, and temperature may be one of those. Again, I get spoiled by using Science Alert that lets me know when there's science to be had. It would be nice if these things did flash, if like there was something like viable, so you didn't have to keep checking. Some mods are more convenient than others. Alright, time warp a little bit more to bring us a little bit closer. And whoa, and there you go. Oh, those G-forces. Again, very neck-snapping G-forces. You are done. We can't get any more science from you. Flying over Kerbin's water. Did we not already have that? Is it counting as a separate things? Yeah. We can't actually get that more than once. It'll count it once. We do have 2 thermometers, but that's not the end of the world. And we'll just wait until we land. We'll get a reading from the ocean. And that will be good. So we finally achieved orbit. That's worth some money. That'll give us some new and interesting quests as well. Or some new contracts, I should say, that are going to be really useful and valuable. And we might have to farm a little bit of money so that we can upgrade certain things. Nope, no. I want this thermometer, please. Log temperature from the waters. Excellent. And that's going to be good. We'll recover the vessel, get a bit of science, but the big thing about it was completing the contract, which did give us, hopefully, more than enough money to justify the cost of the mission, which otherwise didn't do a whole hell of a lot. Oh, I guess we got that when we were there. Oh, returning the surface from orbit for the first time gives us a bunch more money. So that was like a 100,000 Kerbal buck mission. So despite the fact that we spent 75,000 on the launch pad, we are still ahead. And again, we should get some better missions. Oh, this is to test something at the launch site. It's not worth a lot of money, but it's still worth grabbing. And I am at max contracts now. Right, we can still haul that Rocco Max brand thing. Let me go and quickly test the flea at the launch site. So what we're going to do is just make a new ship, put him in the command pod, grab the flea, which is what we're testing, and this will require us to launch, but what we can do is remove all the fuel from this, and then when we hit go, we're not going to go anywhere. It'll still count as a test. Again, we'll open all the switches and everything like that. We've completed that contract and get a little bit of cash. There you go. And it cycles the contract. There might be something new and interesting. Conduct a VIP to the destination. Ah! Interesting! Admiral Kerbin wants to... He wants to simply enter orbit. It's not a location-based. Travel itinerary is just orbit and suborbital. I mean, you're going to go suborbital before you into orbit anyway. It's not worth much money, nor science, but it is worth some and might lead to more tourism stuff. And I know tourism is one of the things they've definitely tweaked a bit. And this one would just be 2 people. Yeah, not a ton of money. But, I mean, more money is always good. I don't care about that one. Landed at Kerbin. There we go, we can do that. Yeah, we could make our first jet, too. And make a basic plane. Could, like, do a proper test of the Juno jet engine. Let's go ahead and fast forward to the morning, because doing stuff at night. No, who wants to do that? We gotta get our beauty sleep. I think those Kerbals are that pretty, just as is. So, if we want to test the jet engine, throw a fuel tank. And this is the Juno basic jet engine. It's quite tiny, actually. This jet engine's only... Oh, we can't test it. Let's say jet engines are interesting because they don't need... In our fuel tanks, we have liquid fuel and oxidizer. And jet engines don't need oxidizer. In fact, they can't use the oxidizer. Instead, they need an air intake, but we don't actually have access to any of those things. So we're not actually going to be able to make a real plane. We don't have real wings. We could pretend. We don't have wheels either. Here, we'll make a pretend one. Like that. There we go. And then we will, we were going to launch this plane. It's going to be great. It's going to topple over. Excellent. And we can run the test on the engine, completing that mission. Boom. We've tested the engine. We have established that the engine does not work without an air intake. Now, we do actually have a lot of science, so we could unlock some more stuff. For example, if we go to aviation here, we can actually unlock the Juno engine as well as an air intake. So we could make our first space plane. Well, wouldn't go into space at all. But I'm not sure that that's the most useful route for us right now. I don't know if we need these extra winglets. Electrics might be nice. Solar panels are actually very important. Oh, also our lights! I'm tempted to grab this just because right now our light situation is quite poor. We don't need those. We don't need the tiny engines. External fuel ducts. Can I resist taking external fuel ducts? I think the answer is no. Having the fuel ducts enables so much better designs. It's not even about the bigger fuel tanks here. It's about the fuel ducts. That's the most important thing. And I think we do have to actually prioritize that. Yeah, we have to prioritize that. Because now we can do asparagus staging and all sorts of other things. We got a few more bucks, which is great. That would probably give us enough oomph to do some of these. Now, these just want suborbital. This is 2 tourists, which will be a fair bit heavy. But they don't actually care about going into orbit. They just need to touch space and then come back home. We could probably do that pretty easily. That being said, I don't know. Do we have... No, the only thing we've got to hold Kerbals are these Mark 1 command pods. And we'd need 3 of them. Unless we had the probe drive, which is a bit risky and has no SAS, so that's probably no good. I could take a different mission that only had 1 tourist, and that would be pretty easy. All right, so here's what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to do the thing where we test the Rockomax. So what we have to do, and we could do an unmanned one, but there's no SAS on the Probodoba 9, so that seems pretty sketchy. So we'll do a manned mission here, and we will drop a heat shield, and then I think I can use the ridiculous Rockomax here. That appears to work. It's aerodynamically going to be quite poop, but we should be able to haul this thing up high enough to test. And let's get a parachute. And let's get a swivel engine on that. So what's the mission exactly? We've got to get to above 53 kilometers. Now, right now, we have a mass of 7.6. Let me just pump that in. Okay, thrust weight is currently 2.3, which is plenty. So I should be able to double this up. 12.1 tons, so if I punch that into my calculation, we got a thrust weight of 1.47. So again, we've got plenty of oomph to actually go up, and I strongly suspect, in fact, if I just launch this thing literally straight up, we can probably get to space. So we don't quite need that much. I will go ahead and drop some winglets on here to help with the stability, especially with this being aerodynamically so wonky. It's going to be a little trickier because it's going to act as a big parachute at the front, and it's going to want to flip over more. So we're going to need the fins, and I will launch mostly straight up to minimize the risk of flipping over, because it's really going to want to flip over with that thing at the top. All right. we need to fix our staging, like so, and go. I will go a little sideways because it'll make the re-entry a lot smoother. Alright, we have the decoupler, we're on Kerbin, we're flying, our speed is currently correct, which is not going to be a problem regardless. We just have to get to 53 kilometers and above. I'm going to very slowly tip over this way. Again, this front bit is going to want to make us start flipping wildly, but luckily our fins are going to help us sustain that, and we're really going to try to avoid leaving the prograde circle. In fact, I'm going to try as much as possible to be mostly centered. And I'm just giving us a little bit of sideways motion here, just so that when we come back down, we're not coming straight back down. Because straight back down means you just have a lot less air between you and your ultimate landing. Because when you're going sideways, you don't only have the up and down air, you also have the sideways air to help buffer you. Okay. That's going to be fine. Now I'm actually going to stay a little bit on the left side of the circle to try to slow the gravity turn. So we actually may have gravity turned a little too aggressively here. Because height is the most important thing at this time. There we go. Just stay on the left-hand side of the circle. We seem to be fairly stable, actually. What's our height looking at right now? 28? I'm worried. I gotta be honest, I'm a little concerned. Maybe I've gone too far sideways. Not enough upness. Too much sideness. Although we're definitely more steep than my typical sort of ascent profile to get into orbit. Oh, no, we're going to be fine. In fact, we will even hit space. So I'll actually slow down here, and I'm going to point directly in here to minimize any sort of air resistance. Speed is good. I mean, is there any chance we could have overshot the speed? I don't think so, actually. There, I'm just going to try to stay facing prograde to eliminate any problems, although there really isn't going to be hardly any. Technically going to go into space again, which we didn't need to do. Here, I'm just going to kill the engines now, because who cares? Wow. Actually, there we go. We completed that mission. We might, this is weird to think about, we might actually be able to hit a new, can we hit, like, upper space? Not quite. Just shy. I should have just gone for it. But I can go in stage now. I don't need this anymore. We've completed the mission. I got the pop-up for it, right? And it's all green. Yeah. I think I dismissed it. I think I opened it and dismissed it. God, I hope I did. Boom. Turn off the SAS and just speed warp times 50 until we come back in. Whee! So we need the money to upgrade some of our stations here. So we need science to get more parts to do cool stuff, but we need money to upgrade a lot of things. There we go. We are in the atmosphere. We're going to go to surface mode. Turn the SAS on. Just face us directly, or more or less well. So we are coming in a lot more steeply than before. Can you tell based on where the retrograde pointer is? Because normally the retrograde is somewhere down here, near to the horizon. Now it's quite a lot higher. So by coming down steeply, we don't get to take advantage of as much horizontal movement to bleed off our speed. We're going to be hitting denser air a lot faster, which might lead to more heat. But there's always the possibility, if you have a particularly heavy ship, and not that many parachutes, in particular not enough drogue chutes, that coming in too steeply, you might literally, you see the heat already, you might literally not be able to slow yourself down before you hit the ground. You'll experience something called lithobraking, which is generally bad. But see, already, like, we can't open the chute yet. We're down to 5K. We still can't open the chute. 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 We still can't. We still can't. We still can't. We still can't. Oh my god, it's risky, but I had to do it. Oh my god! See? Jebadiah, we just killed you. That was a too steep ascent. Or a too steep re-entry. But yeah, what I should have done is I should have flattened out my orbital profile some more when we were up there. I'm so sorry, Jebadiah. We have killed you. We completed the mission, but we killed Jebadiah because we came in too steep. I thought, I was like, I was just going to talk, add some drama to all this, not thinking it was an actual risk, talking about how scary things are, and we have permaneth on. Jebadiah is permanently dead. He never even made it to orbit. This is probably, for me, this is one of my newer records for permanently killing off Jebadiah over here. Jebadiah Kerbin was killed. We didn't get to recover the ship either, which cost us a little bit of extra money. But yeah. I'm sorry, folks. But we completed the mission. So that means we've got an extra spot. There's a bright side, right? So these are both orbit. And they're listed in slightly different orders, but they're exactly the same quests. So I don't know if any of the VIPs are going to be interested in doing that right now. We could just fly to the moon, wrap around the moon a little bit, and do that, because we don't need the money right now. It would be helpful if we had patched conics. And in fact, we've got the money for that. I gotta hold off, though. It's possible I'm gonna need to upgrade the vehicle assembly building first. The cap of 30 parts on the vehicle assembly building is really quite brutal. If we want to go to the moon with science stuff, we're probably gonna need enough parts, because it's gonna be a bit of a heavier load, and we need quite a bit of juice to get there. A lot of delta V. So if we want to go, and we don't have to land on the moon, we just want to do a flyby of the moon. If we want to do that, I think we're going to need more than 30 parts. And we don't need the patch conics to actually fly by the moon. I can do that sort of seat of our pants. So that's probably what we're going to do next time, is just do a moon flyby. Sorry, Jebadiah. Clearly you're not going to be the first person to visit the moon, because you're no longer in existence. Oh, yeah, we got our tourists available. They can't actually fly. But yeah, Valentina's our only pilot. She does have 1 point of experience, which is nice, because actually, by completing the orbit, she's got enough experience that she's added prograde/retrograde hold to our SAS settings, which is going to be really handy for what we're going to do, going to the moon and whatnot. Alas, poor Jebadiah. We hardly knew you. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.